Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Cybersecurity Amplified and Intensified with your host, Eric Taylor, myself, Shiva Maharaj. What's going on, dude? It's been a while.
It has.
Finding our rhythm.
I know, man. It's been interesting. I mean, as everybody probably is well aware here, we're full into the disaster recovery incident response, aka DFAR.
DFAR is the military shit.
That's right. Going back to a little bit too much more roots, but went through the first of 7 SANS classes last week. Mine melted. Getting ready for some tests and stuff like that, and it was a good time.
What'd you learn?
We started doing Windows forensics, things of that nature. So, we're going through looking at how to rip out Stripe, the legacy Stripe, or not Stripe, the Skype messaging, and just doing timeline analysis, things of that nature. And you kind of seen a little bit of that with the cases that I'm creating against Datto and stuff like that, because there's definitely some funky stuff going on that I've been uncovering. But
in the MSP space,
no,
that shit's more secure than everything else. What are you talking about? Enterprise ain't got shit on them.
According to Ryan Weeks, and they're I'm seeing a lot. I gotta wait for that. See, this is what happens. I hate when we take breaks, because
that's when you take a break and you just start talking to people and go humana. What?
See, exactly. What the fuck?
Well, see, since we're digging into the MSP world, let's talk about that lawsuit that got filed.
Oh man, this is a train wreck. So
actually, as my kid would say, this warms my heart.
My kids would say this fills my bucket.
There you go.
So whatever makes you all warm, cozy, and snuggly inside. This is not the first time a customer or an MSP has been sued by their customer, right? So this one, company loses 1.7 million in a phishing scheme and sues the MSP. So I haven't taken a look at what Borland Molded Products is, but apparently they
plastics, I think.
Gotcha. Apparently they have a company called Involta, hooked on phonics never worked for me, based out of Ohio, or is it Indiana? Whatever.
It's some huge MSP that went through acquisition after acquisition, probably fragmented stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I read through the court filing that the plaintiff made against Involta, and they basically said Involta put themselves forward as an expert in their field, said they run a data center that's enterprise grade.
Mm-hmm.
But when they looked at things, their Bitdefender AV or Defender AV, I don't know if it's Bitdefender or Microsoft Defender, was not installed on all the computers, even though they were supposed to have been, and they were charged time and material to have them installed on those computers. Mm-hmm. Worse yet, the definitions weren't being updated, as well as patches. Now, patching I understand, because that could be a manual process depending on how much you really want to do that dance, right?
Receive, execution of it, yeah.
But when last has AV been controlled updates? That's on autopilot. Like, you install the antivirus platform, even WebRoot, once you install, it typically updates itself.
Mm-hmm. So this one right here is Security Manager AV Defender. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Bitdefender. That's the gravity zone right there. So that whole malware notification, they're getting notifications of malware. I'm not sure. I don't know if this is how to go in and install a Bitdefender's gravity zone agent. I don't think it ever says Security Manager. Maybe that's some sort of goofy rebranding. I do know companies.
It could be white labeled, because a lot of companies white label Bitdefender.
But that whole image is there. That is Bitdefender. So I don't know if it's being resold through something like Synchro, because they have their own.
Synchro does it. Acronis does it.
Yep.
Everyone and their mother. Enable at one point did it. And this was back in 2017 or 18. So I know Sentinel Sentinel-1 is the Kool-Aid of the day for Enable.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
that's how I got turned on to Bitdefender. Was a long time ago when I first got in MSP. Was they were doing an AR Bitdefender.
Can you share that screen again?
Absolutely.
And the reason I asked for you to share that screen, and let's go to paragraph 7, I think it is, if you can scroll up. Yep, right there. Stop. Yeah, right there. According to Involta, they have experience to handle your virus and malware protection, your patch level assurance, virus definition updates, firewalls, access controls, password policies, physical security, and least privilege. Kudos to them for least privilege back in 2018. Most MSPs didn't even know what that. Most MSPs today don't know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the icing on the cake for me. And this is where I make fun of MSPs. Let your IT staff focus on innovation and business-oriented tasks while Involta protects your bottom line with secure, highly available services hosted in our enterprise-class facilities.
Yeah, you took that one away too, huh?
That warmed my heart when I saw that. That's going to be my new line. I wonder if my kid's going to make me pay royalties, but whatever. And I think, go ahead.
Yeah, just so when they said that, I was kind of curious, are they doing a colo or whatever through some sort of, facility? So because the colo will have enterprise grade or enterprise class facilities, and they are just leasing space, data space or whatever in that facility, if that's what it is, or if it's something different.
But it's up to Involta to turn on the ransomware deployment protocol, even though they're sitting in an enterprise grade facility.
Oh, Detto. Yeah, it's this whole thing it rubs me in so many different spots, not to get vulgar, but
you're on the right podcast for that one.
Yeah, no joke. It just pisses me off so much because you have, and this is going to be a massive slam to MSPs, and I just don't give a fuck anymore.
It's not like they're leaving SQLite containers open on the internet.
I can't talk about that, right?
But they are a security company.
Yes. So we'll give it a little nugget. I can't say the company, but there was a company who's recently come out and has publicized public record income. I'm saying, way too much. Damn it. But they have
come on edit.
This is.
Or not.
Let's just leave it and let it roll. But there has been a security company who touts themselves highly as being able to stop weird programs from being executed. Yeah. They may or may not have an PRTG server that's exposed where you can RDP into that server.
And for the audience, what does RDP mean?
Remote Desktop Protocol
/ ransomware deployment protocol.
Yes.
You know what? Maybe these guys left that on the internet because they can stop those attacks from happening with their product.
You know what? If you're going to do that, why are you going to put that on your PRTG server? That whole, for those who don't know,
zero trust. Because that's what they said.
Those who don't know, PRTG is a network monitoring tool. So if you think of back last year when SolarWinds Orion got hacked, that the landscape where you're able to see inside your network and your clients' networks and just see that entire landscape, that's what PRTG is. So if someone's able to breach into this company's PRTG server through ransomware deployment protocol, oh boy, the level of crap that somebody can do.
Did they at least obfuscate the port and make it 9833?
No, 3389 as normal.
That sounds like some tip of the spear shit to me.
Yep. And the same company does have an SQLite server hosting a database that's publicly accessible. Granted, there's no information in this, but now that it's on my radar, I'm going to be constantly checking it.
But it's still there, right? This is a company that touts zero trust. So if we're talking about zero trust, that extends beyond their product. So that means let's not put open RDP access for a server. Let's not put an empty SQL-Lite server on the internet.
Yeah,
But hey, what do I know, right? I'm just a guy that is pivoting away from software from a certain type of vertical and going back to enterprise grade stuff. And by enterprise grade stuff, I mean real enterprise grade stuff, not the software that's been built from the ground up /
white
labeled,
rebranded bullshit. And that's really what I think MSPs really are. So, the whole premise, I know we talked about it before, is being an MSP being a managed solutions provider. It's literally, we're going to buy a bunch of crappy software as cheap as possible, package it up into something, add some time and materials in it, and resell it to you at a price, either per device, per seat, per user, combination of the or whatever. I really just wish, now that I'm going more and more into SANS, I see it a lot more clearly now than I ever have before, that cybersecurity needs to be a dedicated, focused field. You can't not have your IT generalist, your MSP, or whatever doing cybersecurity. You just can't.
That goes back to something I always bitch and complain about. The MSP traditionally has been a help desk technician or some version of that, right? You need a project? Okay, fine. They'll go to Reddit, they'll go to Google, they'll noodle through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
When were MSPs trained to do anything more than install an antivirus product? Meaning, when were they taught how to do threat hunting on a consistent basis? Threat hunting, when you get the itch for it, isn't threat hunting you sell to a client, as in Volta is going to find out at some point.
Exactly. I really wish there's a whole lot of, the whole landscape is just poisonous fruit, right? So we're seeing it with the insurance companies, coming out with, some of their mandates, especially, Allstate, where you and I can't say it publicly, but, one of us has been hearing through the grapevine that there is more to come around RMM.
I can say it publicly. I just won't say who, but I've spoken to people at multiple insurance carriers where they are scaling back the use of RMM for internal operations and franchisees or agents or what have you. Once that's completed, it's only a matter of time before it starts trickling down to end customers.
Mm-hmm. And what that means is, if you are a business and your outsourced technologist, MSP, whatever they want to call them this week, is using a bad RMM product, or any RMM product for that matter, they may deny coverage for your renewal.
Or they may carve it out.
Yeah.
As long as you have X, you're covered for Y, or you're not covered at all. And I get it, because there's a lot of stale code and security deficits in existing software out there, and they can't keep paying the ransomware operators. It's just not going to happen. So,
yeah, something's got to give. It really does. But
here's the interesting thing about the MSP, right? You pop an MSP, you're going to get multiple clients.
Oh yeah,
with an RMM model. If you pop an MSP that's not using an RMM, okay, maybe you get the MSP. Maybe you pick up a couple of their clients because they have a notepad file with the username and passwords.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully there's MFA.
Exactly. Hopefully. And that's always one of the things that you and I always tout, do we do a standalone MFA with Duo or Authy, whatever the case is, or is this a tool that we want to have SSO? Because, we always, even us as, go looking at it, do we really want SSO integration into X or Y product?
Of course I do, because you pop one thing, give them the entire kitchen sink. What's wrong with that?
RMM.
Shit.
Oh man, it really just drives me nuts. It really, really, really does. And I see why some of the big boys really just shake their head, when you do this, because, I'm taking classes that literally cost $9,000 for a freaking week, and I got 7 of them to do. And I'm just like,
yeah, but you're investing in yourself. You're investing in your clients. right? Because your clients and your industry is going to benefit from your growth, right? You can walk in and say, hey guys, you're not using that platform because this is why it's not secure. And you can do that deeper shit and show them, here's where you're leaking stuff. Here's where your zero trust platform ain't really zero trust.
Yeah, and that's really, we got so many people out there that say they're not even MSPs, but people who just say they're cybersecurity and they're just not. And it's just giving customers a false sense of.
Technically, if you buy Webroot, if you buy any of these antivirus products and you bolt on some MDR, MTR, or alphabet soup behind it, you too can add that S to your MSP.
Oh gosh. Why? I've said it before, just because you're white labeling a third party does not make you a fucking security firm.
Well, how many of these people are vetting these third parties?
Oh, they're not.
And vendor risk is real.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we've seen it numerous times this year, and I go on the whole magical hunt because we'll start looking at a vendor and I'm like, okay, while we're on a call, I start digging. And what the heck is this? What the heck is this?
Are you talking about the call from yesterday?
Oh God.
They are an MSP that built a platform for other MSP. I'm sorry, they are an MSSP that built a platform for other MSSPs, and all they're doing is reselling other people's products.
Putting it into a dashboard for you to log into and look at the alerts. No, as somebody we know is, no actionable data has been done. That's not the right way to do it, but nothing actionable has been done. There we go.
No, there's something actionable. You're paying for it.
No, it's true.
And you're paying a premium too.
And if you want them to do anything, that costs extra.
They did follow up with me on Facebook of all places yesterday.
Oh,
hey, what did you think? Not for me. Care to tell us why? You're not doing anything I'm not already doing and better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what am I going to do? I sent an email out yesterday. Was it yesterday? That I copied you on early in the morning to a podcast host.
Oh, yes.
Okay. I emailed Andy Stump of the Clared Hot podcast. I'd like to have him on. I think Eric would like to have him on.
That would be awesome.
I think his podcast is fucking awesome.
It is.
And I want him to come on to talk about how you repeatedly work on the basics of your industry to get better. And I think that's what we need to do as cybersecurity practitioners, because you can go buy all the bits and bobs to bolt on. If you don't know how to do the basics, much less tune the bits and bobs you buy, you're just going through a spending exercise.
Mm-hmm. Here's the one thing that I always like to push back, especially now, is an MSP will get an alert. Make up whatever alert that you want. That is
ransomware deployment protocol on port 3398.
Okay. Failed logins. One, how long is it taking them to notice those alerts? Two,
what alerts? They get alerts?
If they got their crap set up right. Are they able to understand what exactly is happening, and do they know how to fix it? Most of them don't know or how to actually properly log stuff. And the other ones don't really know how to really dig in to figure out what is causing it. I mean, RDP, yes, it's very simple. If you're getting a bunch of stuff, most of the Windows operating systems will show the recipient IP address, and, you can maybe even do an abuse case, things of that nature. But, if you're going into something a lot more nefarious of, like data loss prevention, DLP, what did this user delete? Did they actually copy it? Actually being able to go in and do the digital forensics of saying, oh, user B plugged in a USB drive, and now I can correlate that USB drive across 7 other workstations. So,
Whoa. Why are we allowing people to plug in USB drives here?
because most people need to transfer data from a USB ransomware payload from one computer to another.
Why can't we use any of the 1,000 cloud service providers? Why are we still using USBs? Why aren't we using that CrowdStrike SKU to stop that shit?
Could be. I mean, I know a lot of clients that we deal with, they have USB enabled. You just got to watch the hashes. That's another thing. So you can't take one side of it, right? And I'm right there with you. Lock down USB. If you want to plug up your phone to charge it to your computer, okay. But there should be no data transfer abilities at all on USB.
Dude, I took it one step further. I can now say that every client I have no longer has the ability to use USB unless it's approved. It is 100% zero trust. Keyboards, mice, never USB drives. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the ultra extreme way of going. And I totally agree. If we could be able to get people to adopt that, that'd be awesome. Because, if you are a Microsoft shop using OneDrive or, the Google's file stream for their business accounts, why can't you migrate that data? The only ones that I could think that may cause a problem are some executables and MSI files, but
cross that bridge when and how you can when it comes up. The vast majority of what you're going to be sharing, utilizing are PDFs, Word, Excel, CAD, popular file types that need to be used in day-to-day business, but there's no reason to use a USB anymore.
But I got 30 of them here on my desk. What am I going to do with those?
I could tell you, but we'd probably get in trouble. Especially when Kaseya opens up the box.
Oh, God.
But hey, they just hired a former FBI dude to be their CISO, so they are going to be far more secure than any other MSP platform out there.
Dude, they're already saying that. I had a call with them 2 weeks ago, I think it was, where I flat out told them, no, we would never use you. We're never going to use any of your products. I don't care if just one of your verticals was compromised. Your name is tainted to me. I'm not going to do it.
Dude, I had a conversation with a company that is in the DIB, Defense Industrial Base. They're probably 4, maybe 5 tiers down from Prime or from the DoD. They are still running, their MSP is still running a compromised version of Kaseya VSA. And by compromised version, let me rephrase that. A version that could have been compromised and they have not updated since because the MSP told them they don't know where they want to go, so they're just leaving it as is.
Oh, that is just a fucking fantastic idea.
I can't imagine that's the only one.
That's like, I don't know if I want to use Splashtop or ConnectWise and Screen Connect or Log Me In. So, until I figure that out, we're just going to leave RDP open and just get hammered for the next 30 days.
But imagine this. This was a vendor or a manufacturer in the avionics area. Can you imagine if people get access to schematics or worse, are able to manipulate code that's going into firmware?
Dude, I don't know if I just forgot to leave a window open up around here, but I just got to chill just thinking of that. Oh my gosh.
And that's the problem I see across this entire industry, right? Everyone's thinking CMMC is going to be the savior because God forbid we do an episode without discussing CMMC. Or
ransomware.
Well, ransomware is just a given. And speaking about ransom, I want to dovetail into that with Revil shutting down.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. That one's an interesting story. It really is.
I want to believe deep down in my little heart that Cybercom reached out and touched them. And that's the compromise of their servers, because that would be awesome.
So the username the person who goes by the username, quote unquote, unknown, and that's literally, he or she goes by that name called unknown as their handle. that person went dark a while ago, and ReEvil has private keys for their Tor Onion servers, so that way it can run. Now, this person named Unknown, it went dark. They don't know if they got compromised, if they
his ass probably got renditioned.
Something may have happened to that person. But last week, was it last week or the week before? Anyway, one of the versions of ReEvil started taking over.
It's 0_any_day.
Yeah.
Was the username, I believe.
Gotcha. No, that was the other one that said he's just shutting it down.
Yeah.
That's the one, because Unknown went dark. So
they thought he was dead or something.
Yeah. So the Any Day just said, okay, I'm just going to pick up operations and we'll just move forward. ReEvil's had a problem getting their footholding again, because ReEvil is a ransom as a service platform. So trying to get people to come back and do what they're, doing across the globe really impacted them, because they didn't really know. They knew of the unknown user, but they didn't know of the Any Day, whatever. So they didn't know if they could trust them or this person anyway. So now that the ReEvil is running on another private key that may be owned by the U.S. government, or the U.S. government have their hands on.
Well, two people, according to Any Day, the 0_any_day dude, person, he, she, it thing, whoever, whatever. Two people had the key. Themself, himself, whatever, and Unknown.
Unknown, yep.
They thought Unknown was dead because they hadn't had any contact, so they said, all right, screw it. September, let's spin this shit back up and let's go buy some Lamborghinis.
Mm-hmm.
Then the back end was cloned using Unknown's keys, or another key which Unknown would have had, potentially trying to find who Any Day is or where they are. So now they're shutting it down. I really hope we did it, meaning the US government. It would be great. But it got me thinking. Do you think we can win?
This ransomware battle?
Yeah.
Not in the foreseeable future, no.
I don't think it's about winning. I think it's about keeping the game going as long as possible. And where I see our shortcoming is, if this is in fact a Russian-born attack, not necessarily by the Kremlin, but just based out of Russia, their people can suffer. We can't in this country. We're not possible. You cut our internet, we cry. You cut our water, well, that's going to be bad. You mess with food, you mess with fuel, it's going to be bad. There's mass panic. And the amount of sophism going around right now with fake news on either side, I mean, I'm not pointing the finger at one or the other. I think there's just a lot of fake news everywhere. We are not going to come out well with this, with a battle on the cyber front.
Yeah, I mean, you just take what's happening in California with the whole Port Authority. You just take that into cyberspace, where there's goods and services. They said that, maybe, broken, damaged, whatever, by the time it actually gets into the port.
Or spoilage.
Yeah, spoilage. You take that and magnify it onto the into the cyber world, and that's what you're going to have.
Are you telling me things are getting amplified and intensified?
Yeah, I think they're doing a regrouping right now. I really do. Dark
matter.
Dark matter.
We love Dark Cubed.
Yes. Sorry, Dark Cube. Didn't mean to start bashing.
You guys may need to rebrand with Facebook.
Oh my God. Dude, do they really think that, I'm going to change my name from Facebook to, Squirrel Hunter?
Marlboro, Altria. It's not the first time, it won't be the last.
No, but just because SolarWinds broke out Enable as their product line, I don't view them any differently. I still think they're a massive dumpster fire.
Well,
I really think Facebook.
I think they were Enable was getting spun out regardless of that hack or incident breach, whatever you want to call it. that was going to happen anyway, separating enterprise from MSP.
Yeah. I'd still just view that whole thing as a dumpster fire and never would go 10 feet near it. But
This is true.
You take that premise and you apply it to Facebook. If you still have the same meathead running the fucking thing, is it really going to change?
Who, Lizard Boy?
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you still scrubbing your Facebook?
Yes. That is a painful process. Holy crap.
Well, dude, you've probably been on Facebook for what? It's 17 years old, so you've probably been on for 15, give or take.
Yep, about that.
Lots of versions of you have lived through the Facebook reality that need to be scrubbed and cleaned. It's going to take time. Then you also have to deal with people you were friends with who are no longer on and deactivate their account. Can you still delete your Facebook?
I'm getting some errors about that, like some groups that I'm no longer a member of, things of that nature, trying to scrub out all that stuff.
Yeah,
so
it's tough.
It is. So, yeah, those who don't know, when you start going into a lot of the higher level cybersecurity stuff, they start advising you to pull personal data off because, as you always see the NCIS cases or whatever on the TV shows and everything, you got these cybersecurity experts that testify in cases. And if you ever think that you'd want to go down that path, then they don't want you to potentially leave your family,
I think everything's a threat at this point. Keeping a small footprint is a benefit to life, I think.
Yeah, they strongly they say if you can get rid of your professional one, that'd be great. But
you can't survive in this day and age without it. I mean, then we'd have to stop doing the podcast, stop LinkedIn, stop everything.
Yeah, and they get that.
And how are we going to tell people how great we are? I mean, come on.
I could go on the Eiffel Tower.
I am solidly in the bottom 1% of my industry.
Me too.
Everyone else is better than me.
Not me.
Everyone else is better than me, especially when they use WebRoot.
Ah, yes. Yeah, I wish there was a way that we could get monetized payments every time we mention WebRoot or Kaseya. We'd be rich.
Kaseya followed me on Twitter today. I have this little thread going every time I have to unsubscribe to their marketing emails, which is once a month, even though it takes 72 hours to supposedly remove me. They replied to my tweet because this time I tagged the FTC, Federal Trade Commission.
Yeah,
so I think maybe now that's why Kaseya gives a shit. And they're like, hey, DM us your email address and we'll look into it. I haven't replied yet, but my reply is going to be something along the lines of, fuck you, why doesn't your unsubscribe button work? And it's the same email address over and over and over.
Yeah, we're not like a Jewish man down in Florida that uses aliases for every single...
Technically, it's not an alias if it's a catch-all.
Well, he's using AKA aliases for all of his vendors.
This is true. This is very true.
Whatever.
But, bring this back to cybersecurity.
Yes, please.
What do you think are some of the basics that need to be covered?
You know what? I'm just going to stick with one thing from now. Well, no, I'll do two things.
Pornhub,
yes. Make sure you get a good grip on all of your... Never mind. Stop.
Oh, boy.
Here we go. So, the first thing you really need to do is do an assessment on your own network. Even if you put your own information into Shodan and have it scanning all your IP addresses, just make sure you know what's available out there that the world can see on you. Go through and require MFA, not 2FA, not SMS, but real MFA on any and all your tools. If it doesn't support it, look at changing your vendors. And your third thing needs to be the adoption of the CIS top 20, or AKA the SANS top 20. Read it, start adopting it and implementing it in your network.
I've got one thing to add to that, and it should be number one on the list, I think. Asset management. If you don't know your assets, how do you know what you have to protect? How do you know you have MFA on there? Otherwise,
when it would take you through it, as you know.
otherwise, Eric is going to scan your shit, and when he brings it up to you, you're gonna be like, "Hey, how'd you find that?"
For those who don't know, we get that so many times.
And by we, Eric does, because I don't do any of that shit. It's too hard for me. But every time he brings it up to a vendor, "Hey, I found this," their first question is, "How did you find that?" It's like, dude, you have it on the internet. Eric did what Eric does.
Mm-hmm.
So,
hooray! Another episode in the bucket. What do you say, Shiva?
I'm good.
Awesome, man. It's been great. So those who are listening, we will be getting back on a routine schedule. Things have been just kind of crazy, as you can kind of tell with, sicknesses and sands and just,
Life.
staying off of Pornhub, scrubbing Facebook, take your pick of whatever.
Which one's harder, staying off of Pornhub or scrubbing Facebook?
Scrubbing Facebook.
Wow. Goes up.
It's not hard for me to avoid porn.
It's a whole different podcast. I was going through our Apple Analytics last night because, couldn't sleep. Did you know in a lot of, I want to say this with peace and love, authoritarian countries that follow a specific type of law, they cannot listen to our podcast because we have explicit content / cursing.
I believe it.
So there are like 5 or 6 countries where our shit just can't go. Fuck 'em.
America.
Durka.
Anyway, before we start going really off the rabbit trail here, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in for yet another episode of Amplified and Intensified. We greatly appreciate it. If you are listening to us on Apple iTunes, please give us a 5-star review. Tell us what you think of the show. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe and please share this content with somebody you think will be able to be beneficial. If you want to reach out and tell us something that you want us to talk about, tell us how much you love us or how much you hate us, please feel free to email us at info@amplifiedandintensified.com. And until next time, take care.